Text Expander from Smile is supporting this edition of MacVoices. Text Expander can help you be more productive in every single application on your Mac. Find out how at textexpander.com. MacVoices is sponsored by MintMobile. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. In the first part of our interview with Charlotte Henry, we talked about Apple's responses to COVID-19, what they've done, the kind of things we hope they will continue to do, and we also touched on some of the other tech industry titans and how they have reacted to COVID-19. This time around, we dig into the 10th anniversary of the iPad, and Charlotte shares some of what she has done with the iPad, how it fits into her workflow, and also tries to convince me to buy a particular iPad accessory. Here's Charlotte. Charlotte, let's flip it around a little bit. We're on roughly, depending on where you are or where when folks hear this, we're at about the 10th anniversary of the iPad.
Yes.
And I remember distinctly having discussions on this show when the iPad, between the time it was announced and when we actually got our hands on it, as to whether this was just going to be a big iPhone with a bigger screen. And my opinion at that point was, if that was the case, that would have been fine, because that would have introduced automatically some new use cases. But now, 10 years later, a lot of people are looking at it, rightly or wrongly, as a laptop replacement.
And Apple's stopped even pretending otherwise. If you look at the video campaign and the advertising campaign more broadly for the new iPad Pro, I mean, the tagline is literally, your new computer is an iPad.
Right.
So I first bought an iPad probably, must have been about 10 years ago when it first arrived. I remember being a bit dubious about it, and then actually I was visiting New York and went into the Fifth Avenue store before it was redone and had a look at the iPads, and was pretty blown away. I mean, you're blown away by everything in that store, but I had a look at the product, and I sort of got it. I had a MacBook Pro at the time as well, so I was using Apple and in the Apple ecosystem, so yeah. And then, so I had that, and eventually, I still have it in the other room, but it still turns on. I think it's an original iPad, and they still do turn on. I was quite impressed. I tried it out the other day, and and then, so eventually that died. And actually, I didn't have an iPad for a few years. And then recently, kind of early this year, I did have it sitting next to me, one of the new 2019 iPads. The 256 one. I thought whatever the lower memory was, I thought was ridiculous. That's not enough capacity. It's 100. I'm just trying to remember the different memory offerings on the new iPad, and basically there's two, and the lowest one is just ridiculous. I think I've got the 128. It's 3264, not 64, and 128, isn't it?
I believe it is now. 64 is the minimum, yeah.
No, I don't think there is a 64 for a standard. There? No, this is the thing. Okay. I think it's only 32. And that's the one I refuse to buy because it's an insulting amount of memory.
Okay, I think, you're right. I believe you're right, yeah.
I bought the higher memory one, the bigger memory capacity, and I love it. It's a fantastic, fantastic device. I was showing you before, I bought a couple of accessories with it as well. This is I've got a detachable keyboard case, which I love, from Jellycomb. And instead of an Apple Pencil, I actually bought, my colleague Kelly, who presents Daily Observations podcast, recommended the Logitech Crayon to me, and instead of an Apple Pencil. Basically, it does all the same things but cost half the price.
Okay,
and I love it. And for me, the biggest difference in the decade of an iPad is that it's gone from a purely consumption device to a legitimate production device. I've edited videos on it. I've written articles. I've uploaded stuff to the Mac Observer on it. It's now a legitimate powerful, even, not a pro one, that it can be used as a proper production device, in my opinion. I'm not sure I'd like to use it as a daily driver yet, but there's most tasks I can't think I couldn't do on my iPad now.
Wow. Because the question I was going to ask you, is this your new computer per the Apple tagline? No,
I don't think I would ever not have. So I've got a Mac Mini. I've got a, whatever it was, 2018 Mac Mini, and a nice Samsung 4K monitor. And I love the Mac Mini, and I was pleased they updated it again because it's a great device. I think it's quite an undervalued device, actually, the Mini. And so I have that, and I do most of my work on that just because I've got a nice big monitor to go with it. But I use the iPad a lot. I probably wouldn't go anywhere without it, on a working day.
Well, first of all, I agree with you completely on the Mini. I always thought it was fascinating how people seem to be so excited over the Mini, and then when the Mini wasn't getting refreshes, then all of a sudden it was the supersized iPads that were getting all the attention. And then the Mini came back, and people started looking at the Mini. It's like, yeah, this is a pretty nice little device, and it's like it reinforces my belief that you pick the device for the project, or for, that suits you. And that if that's a MacBook Pro 16-inch, great. And if it's an iPad Mini, that's great too. You don't need to.
I was talking about the Mac Mini, which is my big main computer.
Oh, the Mac Mini, excuse me. Well,
same which thing I absolutely love.
Okay. Well, and that's, that's great. That's great. Now I understand the 4K monitor comment too. I wondered about that. But, but I find it really interesting, though, if I heard you right, that you say that there's hardly anything you can do on the Mac that you can't do on the iPad.
In terms of a basic day-to-day, for me, writing things, replying to email, even doing some basic video editing. I mean, iMovie on the iPad is okay. It's not quite as good as some of the stuff I use on my Mac, but it does the job. Reviewing, maybe writing things, reading documents, all that kind of thing. I love Apple News Plus and love the magazines I can get on that. So all those things I really, really love about the iPad. And by the way, we were right. It's 32 gigabyte and 128 gigabyte in the iPad. Okay,
big jump. Yeah.
So, which doesn't make sense to me, but maybe that's a different conversation. I don't quite understand why, a device for less than 128 gigabytes doesn't seem that useful to me.
Well, I guess so I'll have that. Let's have the conversation now.
Let's do
it. The only reason I can think of would be a situation where maybe for a school or for a user who had a need for one, maybe two apps specifically, they don't need to pay for all that extra memory.
Yeah, perhaps that may well be, that's maybe what Apple says. And that's fine. But even then, you could make it 64, couldn't you?
Well, if you're trying to hold the price down and maintain your profit margin.
And to be fair, the entry-level iPad is very good value. In the UK, it's 32 gigabyte iPad is £350, £349, which that's a very compelling price point. I actually think 128 gigabytes for £449 is a very compelling price point. But you're basically buying a portable computer for £450. That's pretty good going, I would say.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I would never consider. In fact, I probably would never even consider the 128. But I also know. All this would be very expensive to put into a child's hands, but I know plenty of people who hand over an iPad to a kid, and really they're only playing one or two games, or they're watching videos. That's literally all they do. Yeah. So for that, you don't need a lot of storage space.
No, but my point earlier was I think even the top end of the iPads 10 years ago, yes, it had pages and things like that on it, but it was still, to me, predominantly a consumption device. You could watch a bit of, watch videos on it, read your emails. If there were some articles you wanted to sit and read, that was nice. If you used books, that was nice. All those kind of things. But now I think it has a lot more production capability.
So are you suggesting that a 32 gig iPad would be adequate for just being a consumption device?
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't like to try it, but I suspect you could get away with it.
Okay. And maybe that's the thinking, that we wanted to build one device that was one model that was consumption oriented, and therefore it didn't need a lot of storage.
Yeah. The thing I really like about when I watched the new iPad Pro video, they put out a video that your next computer is an iPad. And when I watched that, I was like, yep, quite like one of those. With the case and I can really see people who maybe have a nice office computer going, yeah, I don't need a laptop. I'm just going to buy this. No, I don't think an iPad almost ever will replace a proper desk computer. I can't see that. But for lots of people, I think there will be a point where they go, do I want a Mac Air, MacBook Air? Or do I just want an iPad Pro with the nice keyboard and trackpad? I think that has really changed the game, the introduction of the trackpad capabilities. From
a production standpoint?
From just a general, particularly from a production standpoint, from just in general, to have that ability to actually scroll properly like you're on a computer and zoom in and do that kind of close quarter, text editing, that kind of thing, I think will make a huge difference. I think probably, and I don't know this for certain, but I think if we were to sort of wind it back, the thing that really changed it with the iPad was the introduction of iPad OS, because that clearly made I think it really improved the capabilities of the iPad.
I would agree with that, and I think that's going to it'll be interesting to watch those two branch, iOS and iPad OS, because I feel like now Apple has permission, if you will, to do things that we've wanted to see on the iPad, and make it a lot more, have it be a lot more realistic. I mean, something as simple, well, no, scratch that, because I don't want to imply that it is simple, but something more multi-user, so that if you and I share an iPad, I can sign out of the iPad, you can sign in, and the apps that you want or your environment, which obviously it's not quite like a Mac. It's not as customizable, but it's, to some degree it is. Certainly the arrangement of apps and all would be really, really nice to have. And it just wasn't realistic in a phone environment. But for an iPad iPad production environment, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. The other thing I really love about the iPad and iPad OS is Sidecar. I often do hook up my iPad, turn it into the second screen of my Mac Mini. And I think that's a really fantastic resource. And also the kind of, now that you can split screen and, slide over mode and split mode, those type of things, I think have made a really big difference to how you can use an iPad.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, it's still not a multitasking environment, but it's, well, I guess it's better, and it's sort of a multitasking environment. It's a lot easier to switch.
It's better than it was. Because it used to be really frustrating in previous generations of the iPad. Maybe you were typing something, but you had a PDF document open elsewhere on the iPad, and you kind of have to jump back and forth, and that was all kind of clunky, and you just in the end go, I'm just going to put on my computer and have both documents open next to each other. Whereas now that kind of thing, that more basic multitasking, you can avoid. You can do it on the iPad. You can avoid those problems.
Yeah. Tell me about the Logitech Crayon. What your use case is for that?
So I've used it for quite a few things. If I download, say, PDF documents or that kind of thing for research, you can scroll across and highlight things that you want and make notes and whatever. I've also used it for editing text, either my own or stuff other people have sent me. And the nice thing is, if you write using a pencil, crayon, whatever, on the iPad, if you open that document using iCloud and so on through onto your on a computer, all the markings stay. So you can mark up a document, load it up on another device, and you still have all your marked up notes. So things like that are really useful. So I have no artistic ability. So I have never used it for drawing because I can't draw. And so the thing about the Logitech Crayon, where it differs from an Apple Pencil, is it doesn't have the pressure sensitivity, which I think the Apple Pencil 2 definitely does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can draw quite intricately with that, and you couldn't do that with the Crayon. But you can basically do everything else. It basically has Apple Pencil insides apart from that.
So does the Logitech have any pressure sensitivity or?
No, it doesn't have pressure sensitivity in the sense that you can draw, if you like press harder, the line you're drawing goes darker or deeper or wider. No, it does not have that. But it obviously has all different types of pen heads you can draw on with. It works across exactly the same apps as the Apple Pencil does. And so I found it hugely useful for a whole host of things. Like I say, marking up documents, editing some text. I've even done one where I wrote a shopping list on my iPad, and then in Notes, opened it up on my phone, and I just kind of scrawled it down instead of typing it. All those kind of things I found really, really useful. I was not sure I wanted a stylus originally. And the more I'd seen people use it, I kind of got tempted in. And then I saw this one, which I thought was a very compelling package in terms of price and, specs and so on. And I've really liked it. I really think it's brought something to what I can do.
MacVoices is powered by Smile, the makers of world-class software. Working from home means that you're probably experiencing lots of changes to not just your daily routine, but also to your business workflows. Yeah, we all said we were going paperless, but now most of us are having the reality of that hit, and some of us have come to better understand the benefits and challenges of creating, distributing, and using PDFs to their fullest extent. And that's why you need PDF Pen. PDF Pen is both simple and powerful when it comes to working with PDFs. Optical character recognition takes scanned PDFs and turns them into selectable, editable text. Secure redacting makes sure that what you want removed from a PDF really is removed and not just covered up. Add signatures to your PDFs, fully edit and correct typos, even add file and audio attachments to your PDFs. Or kick it up a notch with PDF Pen Pro, which adds the ability to export to Microsoft Excel to save hours of re-input. Export to PowerPoint so that your document looks good in either PowerPoint or Keynote. Create and edit tables, one of the most challenging things to accomplish in PDFs. And let's not forget PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad, when you need to access and edit your PDFs on the go. Right now, as the barrage of PDFs hits your inbox, is the perfect time to download a free trial of PDF Pen at smilesoftware.com/podcasts. It will quickly become one of your most used utilities. That's smilesoftware.com/podcasts for a free trial of PDF Pen, as well as links to all their other world-class software. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by MintMobile. If you're still using one of the big wireless providers this year, have you asked yourself what you're paying for? Between expensive retail stores, inflated prices, and hidden fees, you're being taken advantage of because they know you'll pay. Enter Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile provides the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost, because everything is online. Mint Mobile saves on retail locations and overhead, then passes those savings directly to you. When you're ready to make the switch to Mint Mobile, and you should be by now, just visit their website at mintmobile.com/MacVoices and sign up. Pick your data plan from the 3, 8, or 12 gigabyte options, and even better, Mint Mobile offers you 3, 6, or 12-month plans. Once you have your plan, decide whether you want to use your existing phone or get a new one from Mint Mobile. And yes, of course they have iPhones. Then they will send your new SIM to you, and their easy-to-follow videos make it super simple for anyone to drop it in, and you're up and running. Want to keep your old number and all your contacts on your phone? No problem. Just let Mint Mobile know and they'll walk you through the process. I can't stress enough the quality of both the voice and data coverages I've experienced, as well as the quality of Mint Mobile's customer support. But don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/MacVoices. That's mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of MacVoices. You're making me rethink maybe my need for it, because I've really never had any interest in the pencils or the stylus or any of that. Even when it was just the kind of cheap pens that people would pass out as promotional items, with the other end being something you could write with an iPad on. It never struck me. But I also admit that I've never thought about doing some of the things you're talking about doing. I've always seen the pencil issue as being more of an artistic thing. And that I'm like you, I'm not an artist at all.
No, that was one of the things that never was not interesting to me, but not a use case for me. I'm journalist scrawling around the whole time on things and making notes, and I do that in traditional reporters' notebooks. I'm still quite old-fashioned like that, but I also like being able to do it on my iPad, so the stuff is stored in the cloud, that I can get certain things exactly when I want it on whatever device I'm using. And in terms of notes, editing, even highlighting an article I'm reading on from a newspaper or something, all that stuff, it's been really useful. The other thing I want to mention about the Crayon actually is it's really good because it has palm blocking. So it doesn't have that thing where if you put the iPad on the table, or you're holding it like you're holding a piece of paper, you don't get like a smudge or something from drawing with your hand. It blocks, as it says, it blocks your palm that's on elsewhere on the device and just tracks the pencil, and that's really good. The palm tracking on the Crayon I found really good.
You're not helping my resistance, Charlotte. You're making it sound more appealing.
It's a very good price as well. they're like, I'm not on Logitech promotion, but it's a very, very compelling price point, I have to say.
I'll see when Amazon
I got it for
deliver.
£45. I got it for literally 50% of an Apple Pencil.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. You're spending my money here. This was not supposed to be one of those shows.
I'm so excited that in about a week, I'm going to get an email from Chuck with a picture of him with one.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to circle back to something else you just said that I find interesting. So let's just say that today I'm going to ask you to do an article about this battery. Okay.
Right.
Where do you start? Do you start with your reporter's notebook? Do you start on your iPad? Do you start on your Macintosh?
So normally my day-to-day sitting, writing and researching, I do, especially at the moment because I can't leave my home, on the Macintosh. Often what I like to do actually in the morning is maybe sit on the iPad somewhere and read a bunch of articles and see what's going on. But if I was to sit and most of the serious production work I tend to do on my Mac Mini, but there have been plenty of days where I'm out having meetings, sitting in cafes and so on, where I've just sat and got it all done on the iPad.
But a minute ago, you said something about a reporter's notebook, and I have the impression
so that I use those. I'm always writing notes in terms of like if I'm interviewing people and having those conversations, maybe some ideas that we've had and so on. So yeah, that's what I would use a notebook for, like particularly out and about. So I don't think the iPad will replace the notebook, say if I'm conducting an interview and writing notes about the interviewee as it's going on. I can't see it replacing that. On a day-to-day article, I might not need to scroll so many notes down, and it depends what you're writing about and who you're talking to and what you're doing, to be honest.
I ask just because I find myself because I do have an iPad mini, and in fact, I have several iPads. But the idea for me is I have gotten to the point that I standardize on where I put notes, and if I can put them in an iPad or a Mac, they don't get lost. I mean, now listen, if you say something interesting, I'm the first one to tell you. I've got a pen and I've got a little pad of paper here that I can scribble down on to make sure I follow up on it. But the trouble is that note can get lost. And so my workflow is I will turn around and do my darndest to get this into my notes or whatever on the Mac or the iPad. That way I can't lose it. I can't misplace it and then say, well, what was it that Charlotte said again that really triggered that for me?
I haven't. Have I done this? I'm not sure I've had an opportunity to yet, but have you ever used the scan tool in iOS 13 that you can use on your phone? And I think it's on the iPad as well.
Yes, I've played with it. I haven't used it seriously, but I've played with it.
So I've actually used it for a few things, like if there's letters I need to take somewhere and don't want to take the hard copy, for example. There's a document that I need to present to someone but don't really need the hard copy, they just need to see it. I've used the scan tool, it's gone into cloud, and then I've had it on me. And so, I mean, the solution to the problem you're describing, which I get is one, scan it in. Once you finish the conversation, scan it in, send it to the cloud, and then use your Logitech Crayon to make additional notes on top of it.
You sure you're not working for Logitech?
No, but this is a product I've really enjoyed.
Oh,
you can use your Apple Pencil to do the same if you want.
Oh, okay. No, listen, you're right. And I've said I've told a lot of people that as far as I'm concerned, that today's notepad is the camera on the phone. Because if right now, none of us are going to meetings, but if I go to meetings or whatever, and there's a presentation slide, I'll pull my phone out and take a shot of that rather than try to copy down what's there. And I've also said, sort of on those lines, now a lot of us are going to virtual meetings and watching virtual presentations. The screenshot tool is a perfect way to do that same thing. Screenshot and grab it, and that way you've got what's important to you.
For sure. But still nothing. I still wouldn't go anywhere without paper and a pen. Call me old-fashioned, but I wouldn't go to, meet with someone about a story I was working on without an old-fashioned pen and paper.
Yeah, but Charlotte, that falls under the category of the right tool for the right job for 100%, you.
Totally.
So, I don't think there's any. I hear people trying to make apologies for not using technology for things like, no, that's use whatever works for you. If getting on an airplane, which we're not doing right now either, but getting on an airplane and having a physical paperback makes you happy, then you don't need a Kindle or an iPad. Do what works for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a mix with books. I love my Kindle, and I love a real book as well. Now, maybe that's just because having written a book, I want people to hold the real thing and see the cover that they designed that was so pretty and so on. But there's something, it's a different thing. And also, actually, it all goes back slightly to my point about screen time earlier. It's quite nice to have a book that's on a piece of paper so you're not looking at a screen for half an hour while you're reading it.
That's true.
Although with the Kindle, that's not such an issue.
Right. I
mean, I have to say I wouldn't read a book on an iPad if I could avoid it.
Really?
Yeah, because that's I know you can turn it into night mode and take some of the blue light out and whatever, but I wouldn't find that, if I was reading in bed, I wouldn't want another screen in front of me. That would be quite a nice opportunity to break from the screen.
Okay. I must be immune to that because I don't have the blue light thing. Blue light has never kept me awake.
You're clearly we've always thought you were possibly, extraterrestrial, maybe robotic. Maybe this is why.
I've been accused of a lot of things. That's a new one. Who's been telling you that? No, never mind. I don't want to know.
Don't go. We can't reveal our sources.
No, we won't go there. Charlotte, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so
Always.
much for the time, and we have to do it more often.
Yes, no, thank you for having me. And I look forward to continuing to spread conspiracy theories about you. And I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Okay, thank you. Well, and listen, anytime you get lonely, just ping me and we'll get you back on here and we'll talk about whatever because we don't want you to go stir crazy.
You can we can follow my descent into madness via MacVoices. Could be worse. Could be worse.
A new MacVoices series.
Yeah.
Hey, right quick, make sure that folks know where they can find you when you're not here descending into madness with us.
Yeah. So I'm obviously at themacobserver.com. I'm at Charlotte A. Henry on Twitter. If you look for my book, Not Buying It, on the Amazons, you will find it there. So yeah, that's most of the places you can find me. And
you can hear Charlotte regularly on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations.
Yes. Kelly Gamont presents it every day, and hope members of the Mac Observer team keep her company.
Yes. Charlotte, thanks again. Great to see you.
Thanks so much for having me. Be well.
Stay safe. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We hope you stay safe. I hope you've gotten a little bit out of this, especially an iPad. I think I'm going to end up with a Logitech pencil out of it, thanks to Charlotte. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.